when it comes to gaming machines, power is king. If your gaming machine can't play the latest games, then it's worthless. Luckily, with Samsung's Series 7 Gamer, power is not a problem. Samsung strapped it with a quad-core Core i7 processor and an Nvidia GTX 675M graphics rig. What this can do is basically play any game that you want to throw it at on the market, whether it's The Elder Scrolls Skyrim, whether it's Diablo 3, Batman Arkham City. You can play everything on the highest setting. You're not going to see any lag. You're going to run well above 30 frames per second, which is generally the threshold that gamers like to play at. So this rig is built for gaming. One of the coolest things about it that we want to point out real quick is that even though it's a gaming rig, people still will use this as a general laptop as well. It's a desktop replacement, but occasionally you may want to take it with you somewhere. So what Samsung did was they equipped it with what they call dial mode over here, right up here in the right-hand corner. And you can see here you have an eco dial, a library dial, a balance dial, and a game dial. And you just use this little flipper to switch between each. The eco dial is made for when you're carrying it around without the power strip with you. If you just want to run on battery power. We're in eco mode right now, and what happens is the backlighting on the screen is much lower. There's no backlighting on the keyboard, and you're not going to get the kind of power that you want if you're going to be playing games. Flip it up to library mode, and you get a little more power out of it. The screen will become brighter, but the fans actually get quieter. So naturally, if you're sitting in a library, you're not blaring huge fans out the back. If you switch it to balance mode, you can see we get a little bit of backlighting from the keyboard, and again, the screen stays nice and well lit. But when you strap it up to gamer mode, here we go, you get that awesome animation. And what it's basically telling you is that it's just ready to rock. Whatever you want to play, throw it in now. This is the mode that you have to be in to play it. As you can see, they light up the WASD keys, the directional keys that gamers usually use to run around on the screen, in red, while the rest is just saturated in this brilliant blue. Up here, the turbo light comes on. It doesn't mean anything. It's just really a cool thing to look at. One of the things we want to point out is that when you're playing games, we were playing The Witcher 2 actually for about 15 minutes, the system gets extremely hot, and that was one of the problems that we had with it. The buttons up here, these are soft touch volume buttons, they'll reach up to 114 degrees, and that's just touching it. You can feel the heat if you leave your hand on there for a second while you're changing the volume. Around back, they have these two giant fan vents right here, and if you have any thing that you don't want to get too warm, we suggest not putting it there because it'll blow out heat at 157 degrees. What we don't know is really how much that will affect the long-term use of the system. Samsung's putting it out as is, so we assume that it's not going to have any detrimental effects. What we also want to point out is that, like any kind of gaming rig, you're going to need a big power brick. Usually, you know, they're relatively large, and this one is just absolutely enormous. This is just a gargantuan gaming brick or power brick, and it's absolutely perfect. One of the things we noticed was that if we don't have the system plugged in, the gaming performance suffers a little bit, and that's just as a result of it not being able to generate as much power without the brick attached. Right now what we're doing is we're running Diablo 3, and just to give you an idea of how well this system can run current games, we're going to jump right into the game. It's on the highest graphic settings right now. As you can see, I'm running around no problem, totally smooth. We'll get in some action with some enemies just to drop some spell effects on them. As you can see, absolutely no problem at all. Spinning in a circle, shooting out frost beams, no problem. Drop some lightning action, and it's absolutely wonderful. I've been playing this game on this system for about a week and a half. I haven't noticed any kind of hiccups, anything along those lines. I've played with the maximum amount of people that you can play with, and with tons of enemies on screen, and it really is just totally smooth. So what we're doing right now is we're checking out Batman Arkham City, and this may not be the newest game on the market. It was actually released sometime around the holiday season. It still is a game that will really test your system performance. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the benchmark test that they actually built into the game itself, and before we started up the game, we actually set the settings to their highest. So we're going to be running at all max settings with the Series 7 Gamer, and it's just going to boot up real quick, and it's just going to take us on a quick tour through the game with various thugs walking around, give us different lighting effects, different smoke effects, just to see how well the system can handle them. So we're just going to load up. Here we go. And now this is one of the, I believe this is the Joker's lair, and you can see the different spark effects coming down. No problem, no slowdown. This guy's going to run through a bunch of smoke here. And the smoke parts ways naturally. He bounces well. There's no stuttering in his steps. As you can see, we're running at 28 frames per second. That's a little bit below the 30 frames per second minimum, but it'll kick up by the end. Generally, 60 frames per second is what gamers shoot for. 30 frames per second is completely playable. I would never not play a game because I was running it at 30 frames per second. I would be very happy, and as you can see, there's no problems with it. The ice is shattering all over the place, the different particle effects, the physics effects from the ice particles falling. And this is actually a very good scene. This is actually Poison Ivy. She sent these vines through the wall, and you can see kind of the dripping from the ivy there and the movements. And here's a very good panorama of Gotham. You can see the distressed marks on the lion. We're just going to pan out the different lighting effects up here. And our final average is 30 frames per second. We got a maximum of 38 frames per second, which is good. And the lowest we got was 5 frames per second, which probably a random stutter. But again, this is the Series 7 gamer running Batman Arkham City, and it's flawless.